All right, everyone. So this is the explanation for the problems that we did not do in class. So if you need a little bit of extra help, please watch this video. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the first one. So we have the concentration of H plus. We're looking for the concentration of OH minus, the pH, and the pOH, and determining whether this is an acid or base. So let's go ahead and if we take a look at this image over here, it tells us how to get to each place. So if we have the concentration of H plus right here, then we can go to OH minus by using, if you look at the equation with the arrow, by using this formula right here. And so what this is, it says, here, let me zoom in a little bit. It says that in order to find the concentration of OH, we have to take the 1 times 10 to the negative 14 and divide that number by the concentration given of the H plus. So, and just as a reminder, the reason why we use 1 times 10 to the 14 is because if we multiply the two concentrations, the H plus and the OH minus, it always multiplies to become 1 times 10 to the 14 because they're opposites of each other. Okay, so now let's go ahead and use that formula. We know that we are going to be using, so our concentration of OH minus, we're going to find by taking 1 times 10 to the negative 14 and dividing that by our concentration of our H plus. Okay, so then let's go ahead and plug in our numbers. So we have 1 times 10 to the negative 14, that does not change, and divided by our concentration of our H plus is this one right here, 1 times 10 to the negative 10. And let's go ahead and plug that into our calculator. So what is this going to equal? That works. Okay, so we have, let's put in parentheses, 1 times 10 to the negative 14, then close, there we go. And then close parentheses, divided by 1 times 10 to the, and then let's double check our numbers, to the negative 10. So let's go ahead and put negative 10. Okay, so that is our calculation. And then if we put enter, our answer right here is 1 times 10 to the negative 4. So our concentration for OH is, let's put it in blue, 1 times 10 to the negative 4. Okay, so now let's just find pH and pOH. So pH, if we find it on our graph over here, pH, we see it right here. So in order to get to pH, we need to use the concentration of H plus. So let's look at the arrow that is going from H plus to pH. And right here is going to be our equation. So if we zoom in and tilt our head a little bit, we'll see that in order to find pH, we need to take the negative log of our concentration. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me write down the formula. So in order to find my pH, this equals negative log of my H plus concentration. That means we're going to take the negative log 1 times 10 to the negative 10. So let's plug that into our calculator and see what we get. So now we said negative And then function, do we have log over here? Log, negative log of 1 times 10 to the negative 10. All right, and what is that going to equal? That is going to equal 10. So we see it right here. And let's go ahead, and our pH is 10. So let's go ahead and plug that in, pH 10. Now we're looking for pOH. So now there's two ways to get this. We can either use the OH concentration, which we already found over here, or we can use the pH concentration, or just the pH. So the easiest path would be pH, but you can do either way. So we can use the pH to do that. And if we look at the arrow that goes from pH to pOH, in order to find, let's zoom in at the formula. In order to find pOH, we're just going to take 14 minus our pH. pOH, we are going to take 14 minus our pH. Right, and because we've already found our pH, which is 10, we're just going to take 14 minus 10. And that's going to equal 4. So our pOH is 4. And again, that's because our pH we found is 10. So now, in order to find pOH, if we had the concentration, then if we zoom in and tilt our head really quick, we're going to look at the arrow that goes from pOH concentration, or OH concentration to pOH. We see that pOH, we find it by taking the negative log of the concentration of OH. So we can do that. And we've already found it. I'm just showing you how to find it using the concentration instead of the pH. So negative log of the concentration of pOH, which we found it to be 1 times 10 to the negative 4. So let's go ahead and add that. 1 times 10 to the negative 4. Okay, so we plug that into our calculator, and this is log, not 10G, it's log. So let's plug that into our calculator and see what we get. And we can close the parentheses if we want, but that's going to equal 4 right here. All right, and pOH is 4, which is the same thing that we got. So we got it through the concentration, and we also got it using the pH. So 2 ways to find the same thing. Okay, so use this diagram to help you figure out what are the formulas that you're going to be using, right? So if I have pOH, how do I find H? I mean, if I have the concentration of OH, how do I find the concentration of H plus? If I have the concentration of H plus, how do I find the pH? And so on. Okay, so pOH is 4. Okay, so acid or base, I would say look at the pH, and remember, anything above 7 is base, anything below 7 is acid, so 10 is above 7, so this is a base. Okay. So that is how we get from concentration of H plus to concentration of OH minus to pH to pOH. Okay, if you need extra help, please let me know. But otherwise, rewatch this video if you need to do so.